Run through some of the big name free agents still on the market. He'll give us a real scenario that would make both the team and the player happy. So let's begin with Colin Kaepernick, Bill. With the big swipe, there he is.
Here's Cap. He's in a situation where he has to get a contract commensurate with a backup quarterback. So I'm thinking somewhere in the $4 million range, and that's probably, given his history and the fact that he's been to a Super Bowl, probably a fair contract.
All right, well, that sounds like a backup quarterback type number there, Herm. What do you think?
Well, that's okay, because if you're Colin Kaepernick, you need to get a job so you can get another job.
Yeah.
And this is what this is all about. I mean, he needs to play somewhere. You don't want to sit out all season. And it's important for him to sign now during OTA periods. The systems are being put in. The verbiage, especially as a quarterback. I mean, there's a lot of verbiage. There's a lot of, he's not going to run the exact same system. He's right. We're right. We have the same plays. Verbiage is a little bit different, okay? And so with that being said, he needs to get somewhere soon when these OTAs start.
All right, let's move along. We got Robert Griffin III still on the market. So, Bill, should the Seahawks sign Robert Griffin III?
I'm giving Robert a little tap with my mace.
Oh,
there,
boy.
my symbol of office. Let's see here. The answer is no. And the reason is too many injuries.
All right, Herm, give me a scenario where you would take Robert Griffin III on your team.
Well, there's a scenario in this sense. I mean, if he's not signed between now and OTAs, there are going to be teams that go through OTAs and look at their quarterback depth chart and say, you know what, this guy's played. Okay, we know he gets injured some, but he's a veteran. He's actually taken snaps in real games. And what we have here right now, and Woody knows this, I mean, he's been an offensive lineman. The worst thing in the world is for a young quarterback to come in the huddle that hasn't really participated in real live games to try to call a play. I mean, these veteran offensive linemen look at the guy and say, the guy can't even call a play. Robert Griffin has called plays. He's been in the huddle now. Obviously, the injury kind of makes you a little bit, a little question mark, but he's still a veteran player.
What do you think? You think his career is done?
I don't think his career is done, but here's where I say where Robert Griffin III is right now. It's going to be one of those situations where he probably gets signed later, maybe in training camp. Somebody gets hurt. Maybe a young guy's not playing up to expectations. Now you bring in a guy like Robert Griffin III, guy who, Coach said, is taking snaps, knows how to run an offense, can provide maybe a veteran backup presence, to your team. So I think that's the scenario more likely for a guy like that.
Yeah, I think that's important to point out. At this point, mid-May, so much can change compared to come training camp in July and August once we start seeing players go down. Speaking of the Browns, former tight end Gary Barnidge is a free agent. Bill, he set career highs in catches, yards, and receiving touchdowns. So who's going to take him? Well,
I'm going to tap him because he had such a great year with the Cleveland Browns. Very few other players did. And I think that he's a perfect fit in Miami because Adam Gase equals Peyton Manning, equals throwing to the tight end down the seam to Dallas Clark. That's Gary Barnidge's skill set. And let's see what we would pay him. $3 million a year.
All right, he's
not bad.
All right, Damian, do you think he still has value?
Oh, absolutely. He had a pretty good year, considering the circumstances with the Cleveland Browns. And Coach is right. When you look at Miami, they have Julius Thomas down there with the Dolphins right now. You provide another veteran presence because we don't know if Julius Thomas is going to be maybe the Julius Thomas we've seen with the Denver Broncos. So now you provide a guy like Gary Barnidge, who's been a productive guy for a while, team him up with Julius Thomas. Now you can really threaten the middle of the field. They got pieces on the outside. That offense really starts to look dangerous when you can add another piece like that.
Herm, would you pay the man?
Yeah, I think you bring him in and let him compete. There's no doubt about it. And Damian makes a great point. Julius Thomas has not been the same guy he was in the past. And now Barnidge had an off year. The year before he had really good year. Last year he played okay, but he kind of disappeared now. Cleveland obviously drafts the tight end in the first round. That's why he's no longer there.
All right, then we got Revis Island, which has really turned into a spring break all-inclusive in Cancun this past season. He's obviously taken a few steps back. But, Bill, which team could still use Darrelle Revis?
Well, he's taken a few steps back, literally. He can't press anymore. And he doesn't run real well, and he has to play everything off. And in my opinion, doesn't tackle well enough to be a safety. So I'm not sure that there's anybody out there that's going to give him a contract even commensurate with his years in the NFL. I think he's probably a guy that you bring in if you get injuries at the position. But right now, I kind of doubt it.
All right, Bill is staying away from Revis Island. Herm, would you take him?
Bill makes a good point. I brought in Ty Law at Kansas City with me, and the fact that I was going to start 2 young corners, and I wanted his knowledge in the room. Now, he wasn't going to be a starter. He was more of a backup guy. But he could give some knowledge to 2 young corners, and I think Revis can do that. Bill makes great points. He's not the same guy he was 2 or 3 years ago, but he has a lot of knowledge. Will he want to do that? Probably low on Revis? No. He wants to play. I mean, he doesn't want to be a backup anywhere, but I mean, that's what he's really. He's probably your 3rd corner, with a lot of knowledge and can help young guys. But he's got to be willing to do that, though.
Yeah, but the value of his experience, what that could bring to an organization, there's got to be something worth there. All right, finally, we got LeGarrette Blount. He's a free agent, but the Patriots tendered him, meaning if he does sign with a team, then his rights go back to the Patriots, and that date is right before camp. So, Bill, what do you think about LeGarrette Blount?
Well, I think that he is valuable to a team, for example, like Detroit, who does not have a back who can convert short yardage and goal line. And, of course, we got the situation of being tendered, so I can't tap him completely.
Don't do that, Coach.
In limbo. But the bottom line is I think he's really a valuable, specialized player who can help you win. And we can't move him over into a contract column because he's tendered to New England. So he's stuck there. But I would pay him on the open market somewhere in the vicinity of 3 to 3.5.
All right. Do his medical concerns or do his medical issues concern you? Would you bring him on?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he had, maybe his finest year last year with the New England Patriots. So I think Bill brings up a good point about the Detroit Lions. You look at the Lions, the one thing that we've talked about in years past with the Lions is their physicality. But you're seeing what they're trying to do now. They've been drafting linemen. They've been trying to be more physical up front. Now you can get a back like LeGarrette Blount to finish off those 4-minute situations.
Yeah.
That's where the Lions really need a guy like that, is to finish off the game.
Of all the guys that we talked about here that are still on the market, who's the gem? Is there a gem? Is there a hidden gem here on that list?
I would say for me is Kaepernick. If you need a veteran quarterback that has won football games, that can still play the game of football. Think about all the guys that are out there right now. I mean, the quarterback is always the key. You have to have a backup quarterback in this league. Once your number 1 guy goes down, to put a young guy in there, you're rolling the dice. You want a guy that's actually